Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Paul.
And I'm Mark.
So ice fishing season's over.
Yeah, it looks like it, Paul.
We did our last trip Wednesday.
Yeah. There's not much snow out there now, and the ice is already getting thin.
Yeah.
So
there's no snow, but I'm watching it snow right now like crazy all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's been switching back and forth today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Odd winter.
It is an odd winter, and I was looking up some numbers recently, Paul. I was wondering, because we have so little snow this winter, the least snowiest winter we've ever recorded in Caribou, and I thought maybe this year would be the least snowiest, but I think in the winter of 1961 and 1962 they had a total of 68 inches.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
What are we at right now?
We were at I think it was right around 58 in that area.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know what they get in Caribou today. This is rain here in Fort, but it may be Caribou it may be snow in Caribou.
All right.
A little further northwest. So.
Yeah. So on Wednesday, the ice fishing, we didn't do terribly well.
No, and we didn't expect to do well on that body of water. It's generally not all that great a fishing, and the place where we fished was hit pretty hard. There was holes.
Oh, yeah.
There was holes everywhere.
You had to pay attention walking around.
You did, yeah. I was thinking about taking a vehicle on you could put a tire in those holes.
Yeah.
They had eroded. They were quite large. You could put a human down.
Well, someone it looked like a 10-inch auger.
Yeah, they did, but the holes had, like I say, they had rotted out larger than 10 inches.
Yeah.
So some of them were fairly large.
So it made setting up easy, but
we didn't
drill any holes.
Drill many holes. No.
Just set some traps but we caught some white perch, and my kids were grateful.
Yeah. I caught I think just one yellow perch, Paul.
Yeah.
But
which years ago you would have never thought we'd be sitting there catching white perch.
No, that wouldn't have happened 5-10 years ago, for sure. So things change. That's just an indication of how things can change.
Yeah.
You know, how quick they can change. And yeah.
And one thing I noticed, so going to Ashland every day, this time of year you usually see a lot of deer in the fields. And you're seeing some, but not like past years. And it's going to be because they're not stressed. No,
they practically zero stress on them this winter.
The deer that I see look like fat.
Yeah. So it would be interesting, Paul, and of course we've talked about that before. They have that winter severity index, on deer, and it takes into account a lot of things, snow depth and how long, the snow is deep and the temperature and everything like that. And it would be interesting to see what that index is this year, because basically non-existent.
Yeah, not a
very little snow and very little cold weather.
Yeah.
I don't know if we ever saw a period where the snow depth got more than 14, 16 inches.
Yeah.
So
there was no period this winter at all here where I couldn't walk wherever I wanted to without snowshoes.
That is absolutely correct.
Like I would go out back in the woods.
Yeah. Even up to the camp, which is, like I say, there's oftentimes a difference between here and Sinclair. There was no time that you couldn't walk where you wanted to in the woods up there without snowshoes, with no problem whatsoever.
I was talking to someone a few weeks ago, and he was chuckling. He's like, I went out snowshoeing yesterday, and he's like, I ended up just taking my snowshoes off because it was becoming such a frig. Yeah. He's like, I didn't need them. Yeah. He was kind of just going through the motions because you would
just go snowshoeing to say you went snowshoeing for the extra effort, the exercise you might get out of it. But as far as needing to, you never needed to put snowshoes on.
That's what he does for exercise during the winter time.
Yeah.
And he's like, I just took them off. And
One of the ways I always gauge it, Paul, how severe a winter is how many times I have to shovel the camper off. And I did do it one time, and the only reason I didn't have to do it, but Narda was doing the driveway with the snowblower, so I wasn't going to stand around and do nothing. Yeah. So I think I had a foot of snow on the camp, and I took it off. And other than that, I don't believe I would have had to clean the camp roof off one time this year.
Yeah, crazy.
So,
I'm so glad I bought a new tractor.
Yeah.
for the winter. That's been a real good.
Yeah.
That's helped out a lot.
Yeah, I did the same thing. It's the first year I have a tractor up there, and we did use it a couple of times, but that was it. And even the couple of times I used it, I think there was one time, there was no time I couldn't drive into the camp.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I could have got by with a shovel.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah.
A scoop and a shovel. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's unfortunate that ice fishing, I mean, say it's unfortunate. I ice fish mostly because it gets me out during the wintertime. It's not something that I like dream about doing all the time, like deer hunting or fishing, soft water fishing. But March is always a good month to ice fish because it can be comfortable.
Yeah.
So you look forward to doing a lot of trips in March, and that ain't happening this year. No,
there still is ice enough to go up, but as far as getting to some of the
you can't get anywhere.
Right. It's on some of the roads there may be places where you would maybe have a problem in a vehicle, and there's not any place you can snowmobile. Yeah. So
I guess if you had a side-by-side or a four-wheeler or something with tracks, and that'd make a difference.
Yeah. And I can't get a snowmobile on and off because I put it on the back of the truck, and there are no snowbanks around to load and offload a snow sled. So
yeah. So one thing that we can talk about today is I had an interesting conversation with Lacey 2 nights ago. And Lacey's my wife, and we were talking about, I guess, a little bit, you might call them gender differences or whatever, kind of men versus women, and kind of their roles and whatnot. Because she was asking me, like, when I go fishing or hunting, she thinks it solely from a point of view is like it's a hobby, it's something that I really enjoy. And there's more to it than, just being fun. Because I was explaining to her, like, hunting, she's like, well, you always enjoy it. And I'm like, there's some, not always. There's some mornings where you don't want to get up.
Yeah.
A lot of times you're cold.
Yeah.
And you're tired.
A lot of times you're uncomfortable.
You're wet. So there's a lot of discomfort and a lot of, which can steer people away from it.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to, because she was like, seriously, there's some mornings. I'm like, yeah, there's sometimes you kind of just want to stay in bed.
Absolutely. And I think that has a lot to do with the, as we get older, people drop out of it.
Yeah.
Because they're not willing to make that physical sacrifice. It becomes too uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That the pain isn't worth the gain. And they, for sure, that has a lot to do with why a lot of older people don't do it after a certain age. They just, they don't do it.
Well, we kind of got talking about like spouses and kind of the conflict there between, because you see a lot of people that their spouses don't, or kind of give them a hard time about doing some of this stuff. There can be conflict between the two.
Yeah, for sure.
One doesn't understand.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think what happens a lot, because we were talking about a lot of relationships fail, or you see a lot of relationships fail. And I think a lot of it boils down to like someone losing their identity and being able to go do some of this stuff. Because you see a lot of guys that it's almost like they just give up on doing it because there's some strife there to do it, and they throw in the towel. So we were talking about how there's this, it's almost like an innate drive to hunt or fish. And I think it goes back to like our hunter-gatherer days, our ancestors, right?
Absolutely.
It's almost, it's ingrained in us. And I think not everybody likes to hunt or fish, because I think over time it gets kind of bred out of us. Just like a dog. A lot of dogs, say labs, have been bred for family dogs. And that instinct with them is probably always there, but not to the degree like a hunting pedigree.
Right.
That's bred for that. So I can see, in us, we're so disconnected from it for so long that it's easy to not want to do it. But yeah, there's a drive to get out there and hunt. So she was kind of having a hard time to wrap her mind around the fact that a I shouldn't say a lot of times, but sometimes I'm not doing it because it's totally enjoyable. Like you can be miserable.
There is something in you that makes you want to go out and do it, and to be successful. And that success is how, like you say, generations ago they supplied for the family.
Yeah,
there was a satisfaction to being successful, coming home with something that you caught or you harvested and you fed and you supported your family. And I think you're right that there still is a satisfaction that's ingrained in us that, so sometimes we want to do it. And you back then, they didn't get to choose the days they went hunting. They, when they needed food, they went hunting.
Oh, yeah.
When you're hungry, you hunt.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And we live in a society nowadays where there's this view upon like a 50-50, everything's like fair or equal, and everyone has to have the same role in the family. So, and I don't want to, I'm not going to get into, I don't want to be like sound sexist or anything, but there are roles that men do better than women, and there are roles that women do better than men. It's undeniable.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
And there's exceptions to the rules. There's things, there's outliers.
Yeah.
In everything. There are some.
Thank God we had Narda to raise you.
Yeah, I wouldn't be alive.
Yeah. She definitely did a far better job than I could have ever done. So
we were discussing that and how that.
Yeah.
It boils down to, because we were talking about guys that no longer hunt.
Yeah.
Because their spouses kind of get on, they want them home with the kids or helping taking care of the kids.
That's pretty common today.
Because the spouse works as well. So there's this 50-50 with everything. And what one person in that relationship does well, that they bring to the table, they're now being spread to other things that maybe they're not as well versed at doing. Yeah. And then if you kind of look at it, it gets diluted down to the point where they're basically both parties are doing everything.
Right.
And it's like, well, I rely on the other person,
right,
to do this and this, and I do this and this, so it works well together.
Yeah.
We've got a dynamic. They depend on me and I depend on them. Then it becomes diluted down to a point to where everyone's just doing everything. They don't know who they are anymore, and they stop hunting. They stop doing stuff that they enjoy. And then you see the relationship go down the drains because there's no dependency on anyone. So like a stay-at-home mom, I feel like that gets looked down upon nowadays. And
which is what your wife and
she's made a decision.
And your mother was the same thing. So Narda was a stay-at-home mom.
She's backed off of work to take care of the kids. And that's something that I know there's guys that are stay-at-home dads and they do it well, but I think that's kind of an outlier. And that's something she does way better than I could do.
Yeah, I agree.
I would not
do well
not
at
stay
it.
home with the kids.
No.
It wouldn't work out well for anybody.
No. Ditto for me.
So, yeah, so as we were discussing this, I'm like, yeah, a lot of, I think the reason that we hunt is there's such it's an instinctual thing. There's a drive, there's like an itch that you want scratched.
Yeah.
And that does it. And I'm sure I tried to get her to come up on the podcast with us today.
Yeah.
Talk about it, but she wouldn't do it. She had some other stuff going with the kids. But there's definitely there's gender differences.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of things, Paul, your mom, my wife, she's very capable for, to cross over into doing things that the normal woman, she's very strong and very able and stuff. But, I've never asked her to climb underneath the vehicle in the wintertime in the snow and change the oil in the driveway.
And she probably could.
She could, but she's never asked. She's never expressed any interest in it or anything. And I've never considered asking her to do something like that,
But I believe strongly in the fact that, like, there are roles for each person there.
I agree. I agree.
Things get convoluted, get diluted when you start saying, well, everything is 50-50. And because, I mean, it is 50-50, but not in the sense of it being like
doing the same thing.
You're going to do the same thing.
Right.
And we're going to get everything.
Yeah.
And I see like a lot of people my age don't hunt anymore.
Yeah.
And it's because I got to assume there's a lot of, there's some strife there.
In one of the Rocky movies, he told Adrian, he said, you know, I got gaps and she's got gaps. Together we fill the gaps.
That's it. That's how it works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you've each party brings different things to the table.
That's a little Rocky philosophy for you.
Yeah. We're getting our philosophical.
Yeah. But that's true.
From Rocky. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's being lost in society.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, there's today, and I don't know how deep we should get into that. There's a craziness going on here.
Oh, yeah. Well, since we're talking about society, one of the things that I think about a lot that worries me is we're seeing a societal shift from a lot of big cities in the country. People moving to rural areas to get away from whatever garbage they're dealing with in a city that's going downhill. And what scares me is you see people move to small communities like that because they move to get away from the crap. So they move to a nice community. And you worry about that community being transformed into the crap that they came from.
Right. They bring their crap with them. And
because they leave that because they like what they see at a new place. But then they settle in. And I shouldn't say this like it's ubiquitous, but a lot of people start to, you know, they're like, well, back there, this is how we did things. And then they get into, you know, political organizations or whatnot in the community. And they start creating the very thing that they were trying to escape. Yeah. And I worry about that because you see a lot of people moving into these areas, the new faces from the cities, and they don't understand. They probably have a lot of different values than what we do. And one thing that, you know, just I was thinking about it the other day was a few years ago, like Vermont outlawed or put a moratorium, I believe, on hunting coyotes with dogs. And you got to believe that there's more people probably that have moved into those areas that can't understand why someone would want to hunt, you know, coyotes with dogs.
Yeah, their morals and what they believe is right and wrong, you know. And I don't want to lean too hard on the young generation, but I mean, as far as responsibility, you know, as far as working hard and doing hard work or whatever, you see a shift, you know, away from that. Word. People don't want to, and you know, the idea of showing up to a job on time, every day, it's things like I say, our values have changed. They have for sure,
and so I'll touch on that in a minute. But we'll back up to, you know, changing a local area, and it's fine. Someone can have whatever views they want, but you can't forget, you know, why did they leave the place that they're coming from in search of this new place? Obviously, there was something about the new place that drew them, whether it's safer, more friendly. Yeah, it could be economy stuff and stuff like that. But I was talking to a state representative last weekend, actually, and he was talking about a lot of legislation that's coming up in the state.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in Maine right now.
Like anti-gun, you know, anti-Second Amendment stuff, probably anti-hunting stuff.
It goes along with it, anti-gun, anti-hunting, and
And so you got to understand that Maine, anyway, northern Maine and southern Maine are so different.
There again, urban, rural, you know, and there's a big difference between the urban areas of Maine and the rural areas of Maine and stuff, and and their values and one of the things, Paul, and I shouldn't get into constitutional rights, and I'm not probably well versed enough to talk, but I do know some basic stuff. Is we do not live in a true democracy in the United States.
No.
We are a constitutional republic.
Yeah.
And basically what that says is that under the Constitution, under the Second Amendment, I have a right to keep and bear arms. That can't be infringed upon even if the majority don't like it.
Yeah.
If we get to a place in society where 6 out of 10 people say no guns, it's a way of protecting the rights of the minority.
Yeah.
That's what a constitutional republic does. Freedom of speech is another thing, because it can get to the point where the majority say, we don't want to hear your opinion or your voice.
Yeah.
But under the Constitution, that's protected.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that literally erode,
Oh, yeah.
right now in our society.
Yeah.
With the powers that be.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of scary stuff. So you talk about that, generation coming up, and I think anytime you do something, you should do it with excellence.
Right.
And that's not to be confused with perfectionism.
Right.
So you do something the best that you can do, and it may be something that you're not good at.
Right.
But there is like the maximum of your ability, in being able to do it the best that you can should be an approach to everything that you do.
Right.
Not being perfect. They're two different things.
I think it was Voltaire said that perfection is the enemy of good. So
it is, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, doing stuff like this, like YouTube, you can get caught up in, you want something to be perfect, but it's beyond my ability.
Right.
And you can
rack your brains.
You can get frozen into something, and you just end up not doing anything because it's not.
Perfection is the enemy of good.
Yeah. So, doing something with excellence. And there's something that, man, and of course, the past 2 months have been a rough couple months. It seems like on a weekly basis, I've got some sort of issue to take care of that. Basically I feel like I'm doing somebody else's job for them.
Yeah.
And so like a recent one, like last week, was something with my homeowner's insurance. And you get these people on the phone, and whenever I get someone, or I'm talking to a company that I find someone who knows what they're talking about, and they're actually doing something that, they're trying hard, I try to commend them. And because otherwise, boys, if you don't get the right person, holy smokes. And it just seems like I'm continuously, week after week, chasing my tail because the ball got dropped with some company and just not doing and you have to pay attention to everything. Yeah. And it's extremely, extremely frustrating. So you see less and less stuff being done with excellence.
Yeah. And it seems, and there again, I hate to, this is kind of cynical, but it seems like everybody is out to separate you from your money. Yeah. And every company, and if they can make it difficult and to the point where you just throw up your hands and say, I'll pay it. I haven't got time or energy to deal with every one of these people. Yeah. But we need to do that because, like I say, they're always insurance is a good example. And you if you're well versed in insurance, you should always be shopping every year because they incrementally raise your rates. Just thinking they're raising them enough to tell you, but this year I hear they're raising them quite a bit with. I actually just got an updated quote on my stuff. They just want to raise it enough where you just pay it. You say it's not worth the effort to go and shop, but the smart thing in insurance is you always want to be ready to shop. Yeah. They need to know that you'll go somewhere else if And this is how we're living our life now. We're living our life doing this battle every day.
It's exhausting. And I'm sure other people are feeling the same way, because you end up, it's like, it doesn't have to be this way. And I think about it as far like a societal standpoint, is I worry about the society going forward, because you can't go in a positive direction if you're just like a warm body taking up space with no purpose in mind behind what it is that you're doing. You don't go anywhere. You end up just kind of caving in.
Yeah.
And it just is like, so anytime I work with a company or I come across something that, someone does something really well, which seems to be fewer and fewer, far between.
It does. I
will tell them like how much I appreciate them.
Yeah.
And how good of a job they did.
Yeah. I tell my wife this all the time. She has kind of she tries to maintain a positive aspect on the future and stuff. And I tell her, I said, Narda, I don't know what I'm seeing. I'm seeing ineptitude and mediocrity in everything that's done. And that's good enough. The mediocrity is accepted. And it's, I don't know. I have a very different outlook of the future, like you were talking about, that I've seen such a change in the years that I've been alive, that I've occupied space on this earth. I've seen such a change. And if I have to be totally honest, it's not a positive change.
No, if anytime you start something, you want to start with the intent of leaving it like better than you found it.
Yeah.
Not worse.
Right.
Not consuming whatever it is, but building upon it. And that seems to be kind of a lost trait. And past couple months have been just a bear.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people can relate with all that stuff.
They must be able to, Paul, because we're not the only ones. And, I've been thinking about, and it's funny you mentioned that, because I know I haven't got but I'm at the point right now that when I get these, I'm going to tell them, take your insurance.
Yeah.
I don't need it.
No.
I own my house.
Yeah.
I'll go uninsured.
Yeah.
I own my vehicles. I'll carry liability.
Yeah.
I'm not fooling around,
No, I had that conversation.
I'll carry liability and I'll shop around for it. And I own my house and I own my camp, and I'll go without.
Yeah.
It's gotten to that point, and I've had that. It's funny you say that, because I had that conversation with Narda about a week or two ago, because I'm just not going to deal with play the game. I'm tired of playing the game.
It's a racket.
It's a racket, and I'm tired of playing the game, and and I don't have to play it.
No. Now,
so
Lacey and I were talking on that same note. We're going to have some changes around here fairly soon. We'll probably be moving.
Yeah.
And we're probably going to do something like 100% off grid.
Yeah.
Just be completely detached from, because everything has become such a, I don't know if control's the right word or what it is. But if you look at like the state of Maine, I think pays the second highest electricity rates
they do
in the country.
It's very expensive.
And I'll tell you, like, I just got an electric bill the other day. My monthly electric bill was over $600.
Yeah.
And now we heat with heat pumps, but I feel like I'm being raked through the coals. Like I'm being taken advantage of at this point.
Yeah. But that's only, like I was saying a minute ago, Paul, that's only one small aspect. It's literally
it's everywhere.
They're all coming at us from so many different directions. Yeah. You just want to say enough is enough.
Oh yeah.
And
so we've talked about this for a while, and it's because if you're thinking about like electricity, it's not like another company, or if I shop at such and such a business and they treat me wrong,
you can go somewhere else. Right,
I can't go somewhere else, right? I'm bound by the one electric company we have to do business with.
Yeah.
And I don't like that feeling.
Now they're telling you that, you're going to be driving an EV vehicle down the road. You're going to be You can't burn wood. They don't, and you're not going to be able to run a propane and range.
Yeah.
And here's the kicker. These people that are telling you this are flying around the world.
In their private jets.
In their private jets.
Yeah.
Being guarded by people with guns.
Yeah.
Telling you can't own a gun or they don't want you to own a gun.
Yeah.
I mean, the hypocrisy of what's going on, of the people in power right now is so ridiculous that,
to the nth degree.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was, as I was thinking about stuff in this podcast, I was thinking about, people moving in these areas and how you don't want to have your values changed. But then it kind of, you start thinking about just values in general, what people are.
Yeah.
And it's not, you don't want your way of life affected by others moving in.
Yeah. So if we keep talking about this, are my blood pressure medications they're going to be filled tomorrow? They're going to be ready for me tomorrow?
You're not on blood pressure meds.
I'm not, but I'm going to be if we keep.
I know.
Shoot.
It's supposed to be an outdoor podcast. Somehow we always end up into
Well,
controversial stuff.
It all has to do, Paul, with the way society is.
Well, it's
because one of the aspects of that is they're coming for the hunters. They're coming for guns.
Yeah.
If they could do it right now, and they thought they could get away with it, they would do it today with the people in power. They would do it today.
Yeah.
Because they really don't want you owning a gun.
No.
But they know at this point in time, so it's like all these things we're talking about, it's kind of incrementally a little bit, that's the way that's the way you boil a frog a little bit, turn the heat up a little bit at a time until the frog doesn't realize he's being boiled and stuff. And
that's what happens with hunting. Yeah. So when I look at a state like Vermont, and they put a moratorium on hunting coyotes with dogs.
Yeah.
It's easy to be disconnected from it because I'm like, well, that's Vermont. I don't live in Vermont. I don't hunt coyotes with dogs.
Well, that's what happens. Well, I don't do that, so I guess I don't care if they ban it.
But every time, and I was talking to the state representative about that, like even if we talk about different types of guns, I mean, there's a lot of guns that I don't own and I have no intention of owning, but I don't want to see them banned because that's one step closer to maybe a gun that I have that's going to be banned. And in fact, the gun that I deer hunt with often gets categorized as an assault rifle.
I think it's banned in Canada.
And it's like...
I think semi-automatics are banned in Canada, Paul, so you literally couldn't go take your gun
so
100 feet to the east and go hunting.
If someone like me, who, let's say if I wasn't paying attention, and they throw up, hey, we're going to ban assault rifles, and I'm like, well, that's fine. It doesn't affect me.
Right.
I only have deer hunting rifles. And then you look at the definition of what they define as an assault rifle, and you're like, son of a gun.
It just looks different.
That's my deer rifle.
Operates the same way.
Yeah. And so it's easy for it to sneak into your neck of the woods.
Very easy.
So back to the dog hunting and, for coyotes in Vermont, it's a very efficient way to hunt coyotes. And, a lot of people do it in Maine.
Yeah.
And man, that would be terrible to see.
Yeah.
Even though I don't do it. And
probably never will.
I don't have any plans to.
Right.
But yeah, it'd be terrible to see that gone because then it's like, what's next? They're looking for the next thing to. Yeah,
it's a little bit at a time.
To knock away.
Incrementally over time. And before you know it, well, here we are.
Yeah.
So.
And you feel bad to a certain extent, the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife in these places because it's almost like they become more of a PR organization because they're trying to keep everybody happy.
Yeah.
And as those local societies change, then you're trying to please all the people and you can't please everyone. Because weren't they talking about like the lake that we have a camp on? There's been talk about opening it to ice fishing.
I think the department, if they had their ruthers, they would rather have that open to ice fishing.
And do they say, and I could be wrong, if there's even one person who's against it, one camp owner?
Well, they approached me about starting a petition because, and I don't know all the ins and outs of having that come to fruition, come into law, that open to ice fishing, but there is a process, and you've got to have so many people's names on a petition, and the people on that lake carry more weight. You know, if you have those people that either live or have a camp on that lake sign your petition, that carries some weight. And then it goes to public hearing. And that's where anybody from, that has a camp or house on that lake, their voice carries a lot of weight if they don't want it. And I just knew of a few people that there was no way, and they tend to be very, very, very active in having their voices heard
in the community. Yeah.
So they were going to make a stink about it. So I didn't even start the petition.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna. That was a hill I wasn't gonna die on. So
and you see, and that's common. It seems like these groups are minority groups, anti-hunting and stuff like that in these areas. But boys, squeaky wheel gets a grease.
Yeah. Oh, I would love it if they opened it up, but like I say, that was a battle I wasn't going to get into. So if somebody came to me to sign a petition to open it, I would do it in a minute. I would do it in a minute.
Well, I don't mean to rant about society's failures, but I think everyone sees the same.
Not everyone. There's a lot of people that We're a very divided country right now, and I think
things are getting diluted down to the point where they're meaningless.
I think we've gotten to a society of relative truth, and relative truth is truth is whatever the person wants to believe it is. There's not an absolute truth, but there's a relative truth, and that being, you can have your truth and I can have my truth, and they can be totally opposite. There is no absolute truth anymore, and so right and wrong is the area,
So I come from a science background, where the goal in science used to be the seeking of truth,
right?
And you're seeing it in the science community of things getting twisted,
right,
to fit a conclusion.
Right.
So they have a conclusion first, and then they
make the science fit it.
Then they fit the data,
which is easy to do,
and stuff to
get
justify
the
their
outcome
conclusion.
they want.
And that's not how the scientific method works.
Nope.
You have
they don't want to. We're told not to question the science, but that's what science is, to be questioned.
100%.
So
that's how science is designed, where you stand on your predecessor's shoulders. So what that person's learned, you take that stuff and you go with it and you develop new things. And it's all kind of honing down to what the truth of the matter is.
Right.
And I mean, that's the way it should be done, but we're seeing a lot of stuff that's not being done that way anymore.
Science oftentimes, right, they have the outcome fit their...
That's correct.
What they want, and it's turned political. It's turned into a political football, and so. And then if you don't agree with it, you're branded a conspiracy theorist, or that's misinformation, and they literally want to take your First Amendment right away. You don't have a dissenting voice or an opposing opinion on the matter, and it's like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah. But disagreeing is very important.
Yeah, it is.
Because it creates, and not getting angry and losing your crap over someone, but sometimes maybe you're doing something, maybe it's a study of some sorts or whatever, and you got someone who disagrees with the methods or something or the outcome and questions it. And that's important because then it refines that process even more as people go back and forth. Yeah. On maybe that person was wrong. They missed something. Maybe they weren't. Maybe the person disagreeing was wrong. But it's important to be able to disagree, because that's how you figure out the right or get more right along the line.
Right.
And anytime someone shuts down a disagreement automatically, that throws a red flag for me. Yeah. Because like I said, someone should be able to.
That is a red flag, Paul. That is, they're hiding something when they do that.
You should be able to
You want to be questioned.
You know, if someone comes to me with an argument, you know, such and such is wrong, and, you know, maybe they're wrong. And if I have the evidence, to, you know, the argument to say, no, this is why you're incorrect. But if I don't, then it gets me questioning, well, gosh, maybe I missed something.
Right.
And so, I mean, you got to disagree.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's got to be,
absolutely.
That's how you get maybe not perfectly right, but more right.
Right. You
down
dig a
that
little
path.
deeper.
Yep.
Into it and look at things you haven't looked at before. And
yeah.
So, yeah.
Anyway. So much for the outdoor podcast.
Well, yeah, but it, like I say, basically it does have to do with, because what we're talking about, our right to hunt, our right to own firearms is all part of this.
Yeah.
It's all part of what we're talking about. And
like I said, talking to a representative was concerned about a lot of stuff coming through here pretty soon. And I was like, man, like, yeah, it's just one thing at a time that they do.
Mm-hmm.
But the way things are going, it won't be long and we'll be spring fishing.
Yeah.
So you want to make a prediction?
Should be early this year, boy. I'm going to say by the middle of April, the lakes will be out up here. I'm going to say, well, so that's my prediction.
By April 15th?
April 15th.
Okay.
I think we're going to have, and I have seen that before one other time. And so I'm going to, and how much before? Well, I'm not going to, but I'm going to say before April 15th,
I joke around.
The lakes will be out.
Because fishing season opens in Maine April 1st.
Yep.
Open water fishing. And I've always joked around. I'm like, well, it never matters because there's no place that I would be fishing that would have open water.
Right. Usually the 1st of May.
April 1st. And I was like, this year it might come into play.
Yeah, it would. Bit. And, you know, and it's funny because back in that day, and I got pictures of my dad and we had to wait until May 1st.
Oh, they didn't open until May 1st?
The season didn't open up the 1st of, I think we had a split season at the time. I'm quite sure southern Maine, and I can't tell you exactly the dividing line, but I think the southern Maine was April 1st and northern Maine was May 1st.
Kidding. Yeah.
And so we literally went out somewhere around middle of April, and we sat on shore. There's nothing we could do until May 1st.
Son of a gun.
And we went out, and I got the picture in my mind. We caught some fish there the 1st of May. But I was worried that it was so far after ice out that maybe the fishing wouldn't be any good or whatever, you know. But
it was fine.
Yeah, we caught fish.
Yeah,
we caught some nice fish. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Oh,
I
loved it.
Yeah, that's kind of
ice
your.
out.
And that was Gramps' thing too.
Yeah, that was how I was raised. Yeah, you're right. It was your grandfather's. That was his passion to fish when the ice went out.
Yeah.
So,
just a fly rod and
floating
line.
I had a unique opportunity as a little kid to go up and catch some really nice fish that, you know, most 7 or 8 year old kids would never have the opportunity. So 5 and 6 pound salmon and 4 pound brook trout. You know. A lot of 7 and 8 year old kids didn't have that opportunity, and my brother and I did. So, So now I look forward to it.
Yeah, that was his big thing. He wasn't much of a fly fisherman. He didn't really do a lot.
No, not even. He liked to hunt a little bit.
Yeah,
gentleman hunt. He'd go out for a few hours and maybe shoot a bird or two. Never shot a deer, but he went out deer hunting, and real casual, leisurely. He wasn't gonna put up with too.
He wasn't gonna track a buck for 10 miles, was he?
No.
And that's
if
fine.
it stepped out in a road in front of him, he would have shot it, and it never happened. So he never shot one. So
so I look forward to that.
Yeah,
that'll be. Then it comes fast. Winter went by.
It did.
Blazing fast.
As you get older too, Paul, the years spin by faster.
Son of a gun.
They go by faster and faster. It seems like we were just hunting last week, deer hunting.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Because all of these outdoor activities have kind of a narrow window.
Yep.
You know, of the sweet spot. Whether, you know, I've talked about that with some of the guys at work before. Especially with deer hunting, you feel way more pressure deer hunting.
Yeah.
Because you're relegated to at
a
least
month,
for rifle hunting.
And in that month, it's only a few days for you. Yeah.
You feel like, you're under the gun. Fishing's a little more relaxed.
But even then, Paul, you have your ice out fishing, and of course, there's no fly fishing or very little at that time. And
dry fly fishing.
Your dry fly fishing that's limited
between
the cool water and it turning too warm.
Yeah.
You have a window there that's pretty small, and then bird hunting, and it all
up here,
like you say, each little thing seems to drift by fairly fast. And so
because you get about a month of the way, because we don't use downriggers or anything like that,
right?
Not, we're trolling tandem streamers on top, and you've got about a month, about 4 weeks, like Memorial Day weekend usually.
Yeah,
that's the end of the trolling, and the fish are going deeper.
Yeah, you have to be intentional and say, the opportunity, the time is right, and you have to be intentional and make the time and go.
But then so you look at Memorial Day weekend, and that's right. Then you get the dry fly fishing that starts to pick up.
Yeah,
and you're looking
after Memorial Day.
Third week of June is usually the sweet spot for that.
Yeah.
And then we get the dog days of summer that kind of slow things down. You can get some interesting hatches in July.
Yeah, the hex hatch the 4th of July hatch, which we've never really taken advantage of. And I keep telling myself every year, this will be a year I'll try to do some of that. And so...
Well, there's some other watersheds that we fish in June that also have some hex hatches.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you were referring to those or not. I think you were talking about...
Well, one of the big lakes up in the Fish River Chain of Lakes used to have, but I guess they don't so much anymore. Used to be well known for the hex hatch.
But there's some ponds up in the woods too that...
Yeah, there's a lot of the ponds do, but they're still around 4th of July, unless the weather, I have heard of they come off earlier if they have the right weather, warm weather earlier, and stuff. So, but generally 4th of July is the date of that.
And then you've got, I'm thinking in August, is that August kind of a trico?
Yeah, those are the streams, the rivers and streams, trichorthos. Yeah.
There's always something you can.
Yeah, and I haven't done that in a few years, but that could be some really good fishing.
Yeah, little tiny flies.
Yeah.
20,
small
22.
Little, and that's a morning hatch. That's like from maybe 8 o'clock until 10:30. Yeah, that's a morning hatch.
Yeah, but those are just over the past week. Those are some of the big things that I kind of popped up in my head. The changes in dynamics between, say, husband and wife or spouse, and how that affects, and a person's innate nature to get out and
one of the things I wanted
to provide and stuff like that.
Talk to you about that is that has changed over generations. And I think back into my father's generation, my great-grandfather. In his day, that was very accepted for men to go off, and they didn't take the kids with them.
No.
And so my father was 9 years old when his father died. And my father had never gone, and he loved to hunt and fish, my grandfather, and my father had never gone with him.
Yeah, your grandfather was
he loved to hunt and fish, and and they always said, I remember my mom saying and stuff, well, back in that day, they didn't take the kids. The kids stayed home with the mom, and until they were well old enough to go, and that was a different thing. And men went, and oftentimes they went for months, longer lengths of time.
If you look at those old books, like the one that I had just read that I had shared on one of our other podcasts. Those guys spent. Granted, it was harder to get into those places.
Yeah.
So you were committed. You weren't just going to go for a weekend.
No,
you're spending that kind of time. If you're pulling up a river to say get into Munsungan or places like that.
You pulled up the Aroostook and Munsungan rivers to get up.
You're not doing that for a weekend.
No.
Well, you don't see kids in the pictures.
No.
Anything like that.
No, that just, you're right. You never see kids in any of the hunting and fishing pictures of it's very seldom that that was just the way society was at that time.
Yeah.
Not to say it's right or wrong, but
I mean, I think it's great now to get kids out there because there's so many other things pulling them. I don't want to say in bad directions, but are distracting.
Yeah.
Which are good in their own time, maybe a little bit of it, but it can be consuming for a lot of kids.
Yeah.
You know, to sit behind a screen or whatever it is, whether it's video games or TV or computers, stuff like that. And good to get them out. And
well, they're the ones that are going to be pushing for the right to hunt and to own firearms down the road. And we are certainly in the minority now, and in a generation or two, who knows what that's going to look like. It's
also a health aspect. When I look at, I think about wintertime up here. Winter's long, and I think about people that really don't do anything. They don't have a winter activity that they do. Boys, it would be easy to be depressed.
Yeah.
If you sat inside four walls, we've got less daylight. It's gets dark early.
Right.
And I can see where, man, it could be a very depressing time of year if you don't have a hobby to get out. And I mean, that's why, I'm not like I said, I don't dream about ice fishing.
Right.
It's not the top of but I still like to, you get outside and
participate in life.
Blow the stink
rather
off.
Rather than watch TV or whatever. Yeah, for sure. And anytime you can, it's not a lot of physical activity, but at least it's some. And
well, like the trip we just did, I mean, I didn't have high hopes for catching much for fish, but it was a warm day, and
we did it.
Get out there and just enjoy it. There wasn't much for wind.
No, it was a nice day, actually.
There was eagles flying all around us there at one point.
Yeah.
And caught some white perch. My kids loved it.
Yeah.
They ate that right up.
Yeah.
So could have been worse things to be doing.
A lot worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, alrighty. I guess that's it.
Yep. Yeah. I'm good.
All right. Oh, today we sprung ahead, didn't we?
Today
I'm glad we did that.
Yeah, we lost an hour today, Paul.
I don't care. I like driving home in the light.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a good thing. Yeah. I just wish they'd leave it there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just leave it there. Yeah. And they've talked about doing that. Maybe they will eventually.
Yeah, I like driving home in the light. So.
Yeah, no need to fall back next year. So.
All right. I guess that's about it.
Yep.
So until next time, get outside.
It's good for the soul.
See ya.